body. So yes, it's in everything and it's also everywhere at the same time, just like in spirituality, right? You have the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. It's everywhere and in everybody at the same time, so on and so forth. And of course, if you want to do wordplay, you can say Adam came before Eve, so on and so forth, because if you spell Adam, Atom, then yes, Adam came before Eve. Every atom came before the subject or the mass put itself together, right? With matter, so on and so forth, gravitational pull, etc. But it wasn't without these three fundamental particles, or I should say smallest elements, particles that you want to describe them as, coming together to create that thing, right? So let's keep moving forward, but I want to leave this here so that you guys can understand where I'm getting at when it comes to combining creativity and logic, because yes, this is a creative thing, and I'll make this actually a little bigger here so that you guys can see it on camera. So let me go ahead and just clear this off. Now remember, we have the electrons, which are over here, and I'll put a little E. We have the neutrons here, and I'll put an N. And then we have the quarks here, and I'll put a Q. And then we have this symbol in the middle where they all intersect, right? Now, this may rub some people the wrong way, so on and so forth, but you have to remember that your goal in this lesson, in class itself, is to understand. Remember, if you do not strive to understand, you will understand nothing. So always remember that as you move forward, right? Now, people need something to keep them going in life, or they stop growing. As Tony Robbins says, if you're not growing, you're dying, right? So in life in general, right? Whether it's art, science, or spirituality, which uses creativity and logic all the time, people need something to keep them moving forward. If not, they get depressed, they go down the spiral, so on and so forth, etc., and it's not good. So when I talked about spreading a positive message, if you have the ability to do so, then do so. Now let's go into other areas, right? The Greeks, they had Zeus and Hercules, whereas today we have things like Star Wars and Harry Potter. But how does that all come together? Because in every movie, the way it comes together is there's a good force and there's a bad force. And there's always a fight between the two, right? But there is a fine line in the middle. In Star Wars, you have different types of Jedi and you have people that fight, so on and so forth. You know, they're with the Republic and all this other stuff. Then in the Greek time, you had the gods and you had the Titans. You had Kronos, who was defeated by Zeus. You had Hercules, whose job it was to do the 12 deeds or the deeds or whatever, so he could gain his powers and excel in life. You had Odysseus that had to go through trials and tribulations, so on and so forth, etc., before returning home and eventually getting back to his wife. These are the things that people look up to, that inspire them to do more, or that they look at to get them out of a dark place. Some people may lose themselves in a fantasy like Harry Potter, and that might inspire them to either write a book, get into magic and performing, or to understand science more so that they could benefit others, etc., because it looked cool on camera. Remember this: tomorrow lies in the beauty of our dreams, right? And the reason why I say that is because without tomorrow, or the expectation of tomorrow, right? And the dreams that we have when we go to sleep at night, what will we have to talk about and think about throughout the day tomorrow, right? So you go to sleep and you dream about something, and then you go out and you're supposed to connect with other people. It's how cells and living organisms survive. They connect, they communicate, they survive off of each other sometimes, depending if they're omnivore, carnivore, so on and so forth, etc., or herbivore, whatever it's called. But you have to remember that tomorrow lies in the beauty of our dreams. And if you don't have nothing to strive for tomorrow, how are you going to get through today? So you have to remember these things, especially if you're in certain fields, right? Whether that's art, science, or spirituality, you have to remember there are people out there that are looking for something to keep them going. And this is something that you can go ahead and apply. If you see this video, you can go ahead and share it with everybody else, because this is how we bring people together, especially the people in the scientific field, bring them over into spirituality and get them to understand what it's actually talking about and how everything comes together. Because as I said earlier, spiritual teachings were written in code and entendre. You had to get a lot of information across, in a very small amount of time. But how do you do so? Well, in spiritual books, they're more like libraries because there's multiple books within them. That was stated by Dr. Jordan Peterson. And it was kind of like the first way of developing technology in the written language, kind of like an iPod. I could get all this information across in this one book that has many books in it, so on and so forth. And it can be understood by people who understand what's being said within the pages, that can interpret and understand the etymology of the words, so that they could have a better life and think better as they make their decisions within life and they question things, right? Because remember, they always need something to strive for tomorrow. So why not give them the tools to help them stand out and survive today?